Nigeria's top election official, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, will leave office in October 2025 after completing the maximum 2 terms as chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. His exit matters because the person who replaces him will shape the credibility of the 2027 elections when President Bola Tinubu is widely expected to seek re-election. Yakubu, who oversaw the 2019 and 2023 general polls as Nigeria's longest-serving election chief since 1999. His handling of the 2023 vote drew sharp criticism over technology failures and delays that sparked allegations of bias. While attention is now on who Tinubu will nominate, no official candidates have emerged, but speculation focuses on whether he will choose someone from his home region, the Southwest, or from the North Central, the only 2 zones yet to produce an INEC chairman. Past presidents have usually picked outsiders to avoid claims of bias. Almost every INEC chair since 1999 has been a professor, but there is no law requiring that. Well, as Nigeria shops for a replacement for the outgoing chairman of its election management body whose tenure elapses this October, lawyer and human rights activist Malachy Ugummadu joins us now for a chat about the kind of INEC chairman Nigeria needs and the process of appointment. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you for the opportunity again. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, let's start on a soft note. Let's start with the qualities that we can expect from the next INEC chairman, that will ensure that Nigeria has free and fair elections.
The qualities are prescribed under the Constitution. And it talks about, of course, a Nigerian who is above the age of 40 years, who is not partisan in the sense that he does not belong or openly subscribe to any existing political party. If you like, apolitical. He must be a man of integrity, one whose character and discipline can be vouched for, largely so speaking, and so on and so forth. However, that is as far as the Constitution is concerned. What the Constitution also did or have done is to make further provisional arrangements, defining the prescription and recruitment processes. And that is that such a person who shall superintend the election monitoring body, in our own case, INEC, shall be appointed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His appointment, together with the 12 other national commissioners of INEC, shall be confirmed by the Senate. The idea is to ensure that the appointment or the recruitment process by which the country recruits an umpire whose responsibility it is to midwife the election process is not concentrated in the hands of one arm of government. But even at that, we have had issues, not with this present government, but with successive governments. So much so that in 2007, former President Yar'Adua came on board, realized the circumstances of his emergence, had the discipline and the courage and humility, if you like, the patriotism, to announce to the nation that being a participant who was right in the eye of the storm, he could tell that the process was not decent enough, not credible enough, and not reliable enough, and therefore needed to do something about it. And he did. What did he do? He constituted what is now popularly known as the Ways Committee, a group of wise Nigerians headed by the retired Chief Justice of Nigeria. God bless his soul. In short, God bless the souls of the 2 gentlemen. And at the end of the day, the committee came out with what has now been referred as a very profound recommendations. But as it has turned out, those recommendations have not seen the light of the day in terms of finding their way into the organic laws of this country. And why was it so? Of course, the man who had the courage to envision that reform passed away. The one who succeeded him didn't muster as much courage, as much patriotic zeal, in my view, because it has to do with the political will. First, to accept that something was wrong. Secondly, to see the reform through, and then save the country from the consequences of having a chairman and members of the Independent Electoral Commission that are neutral, and that they are not partial, that are impartial, the outcome of whose exercise will be reliable, will be defensible, and will give sufficient credibility to restore the hopes of the Nigerian people. So this is where we are.
Okay, so I'd like us to, focus on the selection process as it is. What factors would you say influences the decision-making process? And how can the new chairman maintain the independence of INEC and resist political pressure, seeing as the selection process more or less is in an individual's hands?
Well, I think it goes back to where we have just ended. And that is that, can we afford as a nation to continue to vest in the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that responsibility to appoint not just the chairman, but other national electoral officers, including resident electoral officers? The powers are so wide. Now, it is worse when such a president will also be a participant, will also contest the election to be superintended by his appointees. I mean, common sense frowns at that. Logic is not susceptible to any logical thinking. And I think that even the law itself, as lawyers, we are told that a man cannot be a judge in his own cause. This time around, you cannot appoint somebody into a process in which you will participate. So from those angles, it is very clear that we needed to make profound rearrangement and reforms. There have been suggestions, which is to say that we are not short of ideas on what can be done. This report, this committee have proposed that the appointment of at least the chairman of INEC should be by the National Judicial Commission. And the reasons are not far-fetched. It is that such a body is not political as such. But more importantly, it is a judicial, quasi-judicial body that will be able to ward off to some extent, or to a large extent, political interference. I will even go further.
Let me just interrupt you briefly. Yes. Knowing how endemic corruption is in our system, is that really a foolproof plan? So saying that the National Judicial Council, is a political and to a large extent will not be biased. I'm
happy and that is precisely where I'm going to. In saying that I would even go further to say, look, even as lawyers, I've had cause, and this is with profound respect, to engage at that level. I'm talking of the National Judicial Council. I have delivered lectures for the National Judicial Institute. One is also coming up this October. I'm a resource person. We have had cause to even query the composition of the National Judicial Council. In fact, we have cried ourselves hoarse regarding the recruitment processes of even judges. and the kind of overbearing powers that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is the chairman of the National Judicial Council, wields in all of this. We have queried all of those. But what is more, if you are going to have an arm of government, because the National Judicial Council does not operate in vacuum. It is a commission and an institution within the judiciary. In fact, it is responsible for a lot of things, including the discipline of judges. If you're going to have that body make appointments into the executive, then you will likely harvest the crisis that could undermine the principles of separation of power. Because election, like you and I can affirm, is a contestation. Most often than not, and given our level of development and political maturity, these contestations become legal disputations. And when they become legal disputations, these matters are referred to the judiciary. So if you have the chairman of the National Judicial Commission superintending that National Judicial Commission, making the appointment, and then having also to come and deal with cases that you could see that. So that's why I said one would even suggest even something, again, to strike a balance between that and the neutrality you talked about. So how can a nation of 230, whatever guess we have now, but certainly above 200 million Nigerians, with all the ivory towers we have, the professional centers we have, the religious bodies we have, the faith-based organizations, the civil society, are you sure that if we looked intensely and given what we are and what we know about ourselves, that we cannot talk of credible Nigerians? They mustn't be up to 100. If we're up to 15, 20, even 10, they can be constituted. Can be through election, can be through selection, but we can get credible Nigerians that will pick out and conduct a process that will give us an independent, impartial chairman of the National Electoral Commission, as well as their commissioners.
Well, thank you so much, Malachy Ugummadu, lawyer and human rights activist. It's been a very insightful discussion. Thanks so much for joining us on Newsday.